The red dust swirled around Dr. Lisa Winter's boots as she made her way through the ruins of Mars Colony Beta. Her breath fogged the inside of her helmet, while she carefully stepped over fallen support beams and shattered dome panels. The colony had been abandoned for over 50 years, ever since the first Zarkari attacks forced humanity to consolidate their defenses closer to Earth. Lisa checked her oxygen levels, still 4 hours remaining. The scanner in her hand beeped steadily, searching for any signs of the mysterious energy readings that her team had detected from orbit. The morning sun cast long shadows through the broken structures, creating an eerie atmosphere in the dead settlement. "Base, this is Winters," she said into her radio. "Moving into Sector 7 now. Still no sign of the source." "Copy that, Doctor," replied the voice of her research assistant, Kevin Mills. "Satellite shows clear weather for the next 6 hours. Take your time." Lisa smiled. Kevin always worried about her safety during these solo expeditions, but she preferred working alone. It let her think clearly without having to explain every little observation to a team. As she rounded the corner of what used to be the colony's main laboratory, her scanner's beeping suddenly increased. Lisa froze, slowly turning in place until the signal peaked. The source was coming from beneath a pile of debris near the lab's central chamber. "Base, I've got something," she reported, already moving toward the rubble. "Signal is stronger here. Going to need about an hour to dig." Using the small plasma cutter from her toolkit, Lisa carefully began removing pieces of collapsed ceiling and wall panels. The work was slow and tedious, but her heart raced with excitement. After 3 years of searching abandoned colonies for signs of advanced technology, she might finally have found something significant. 2 hours later, Lisa's gloved hands brushed away the last bit of dust, revealing a smooth crystalline object about the size of a football. It glowed with a faint blue light that pulsed in a steady rhythm, like a heartbeat. "Base, you're not going to believe this," she whispered, her scanner going wild as she held it near the crystal. "I found some kind of artifact. It's unlike anything I've ever seen." Before Kevin could respond, the crystal's glow intensified. Lisa felt a strange tingling sensation throughout her body, even through her protective suit. For a brief moment, she could have sworn she heard whispers in her mind, ancient voices speaking in unknown languages. The sensation passed as quickly as it had come, leaving Lisa breathless. She carefully placed the artifact in her containment case, her hands trembling slightly. "Dr. Winters, are you all right?" Kevin's worried voice came through her radio. "Your vital signs just spiked." "I'm fine," she assured him, securing the case to her back. "But we need to get this to Earth immediately. Contact Administrator Walsh at the Human Council. Tell him I think I've found what we've been looking for." 3 days later, Lisa stood in the pristine white conference room of the Human Council headquarters in Geneva. The crystal artifact floated in a containment field at the center of the long table, its soft blue glow reflecting off the faces of the dozen council members seated around it. Administrator Peter Walsh, a tall man with graying hair and kind eyes, studied the holographic data floating above the crystal. "Dr. Winters, you're certain about these readings?" Lisa nodded, pulling up another set of diagrams. "The crystal contains incredibly complex data structures. From what we've decoded so far, it appears to be instructions for, well, this is going to sound crazy, but for harnessing the energy of the human soul." Murmurs filled the room. Counselor Sarah Davis leaned forward, her brow furrowed. "The human soul. That's more the realm of religion than science, Doctor." "I thought so too," Lisa replied. "But the data is clear. The artifact describes the human consciousness as having a quantifiable energy signature, one that can be measured, amplified, and even used to power advanced technology. The ancient civilization that created this understood things about human nature that we're only beginning to grasp." Administrator Walsh stood up, pacing slowly around the table. "And you believe this technology could help us in the war?" Lisa took a deep breath. This was the moment she had been preparing for. "Yes, sir. The Zarkari have superior numbers and technology, but their ships and weapons are all controlled by artificial intelligence. This crystal suggests that properly harnessed human consciousness could create systems far more powerful than any AI. The potential risks, began Counselor Davis, but Walsh raised his hand. The Zarkari wiped out 3 colony worlds last month alone, he said quietly. At our current rate of losses, Earth itself will be threatened within 2 years. We need every advantage we can get. He turned to Lisa. Dr. Winters, I'm giving you full access to the Lunar Research Facility. Assemble whatever team you need. If this soul technology is real, we need to understand it completely. Lisa nodded, her mind already racing with possibilities. Sir, I'd like to request Chief Engineer Susan Martinez and Dr. George Howard for the project. Their expertise in quantum physics and consciousness studies would be invaluable. Granted, Walsh replied. But this project remains classified at the highest level. If word got out about this technology before we understand it fully, the panic could be devastating. As the council members filed out of the room, Lisa stayed behind, staring at the gently pulsing crystal. She couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing on the brink of something momentous, something that would change the course of human history forever. That night, in her small apartment overlooking Lake Geneva, Lisa reviewed the initial translations of the crystal's data. The ancient text spoke of warriors linking their souls to massive war machines, of human consciousness expanded beyond the limits of flesh and blood. But it also contained warnings, dark hints about the price of such power. Her computer chimed with a message from Susan Martinez. Just got the transfer order. Kevin and I will meet you at Luna tomorrow. This better be as amazing as you claim. Lisa smiled, sending back a quick reply. Trust me, Susan. We're about to rewrite the laws of physics and human nature all at once. As she prepared for bed, Lisa walked to her window and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Zarkari were planning their next attack, their AI commanders calculating odds and plotting strategies. They had no idea that humanity was about to change the rules of the game. The crystal's discovery was just the beginning. The real work and the real challenges would start tomorrow. But for the first time since the war began, Lisa felt something she hadn't dared to feel in years. Hope. She just prayed they could master this technology before it was too late. The fate of humanity might depend on it. The stark white corridors of Lunar Research Facility hummed with activity as Chief Engineer Susan Martinez made her way to the main laboratory. 3 months had passed since Dr. Lisa Winters' discovery of the soul crystal on Mars, and every day brought new breakthroughs and new questions. Susan paused at the security scanner, letting it read her retinal pattern before the heavy doors slid open. Inside, Dr. George Howard hunched over a complex array of sensors, his usually neat brown hair disheveled from running his hands through it in frustration. Any progress with the frequency matching? Susan asked, setting down her tablet. George looked up, dark circles under his eyes. The crystal's energy patterns are unlike anything in our databases. It's as if it operates on laws of physics we haven't even discovered yet. Show me the latest readings, Susan said, pulling up a chair beside him. The holographic display showed waves of energy flowing from a test subject in the adjacent chamber. The volunteer, a young technician named Adam Foster, sat perfectly still as sensors monitored his brainwaves and what they had started calling his soul signature. See this pattern here? George pointed to a pulsing line of data. It matches the crystal's base frequency, but we can't maintain the resonance for more than a few seconds. Susan frowned, making some quick calculations on her tablet. What if we're thinking about this wrong? The ancient text doesn't talk about matching frequencies. It talks about harmony. Harmony. George raised an eyebrow. Like in music, Susan explained, her fingers flying over the controls. We're trying to force the human soul to match the crystal's pattern, but what if we need to let them naturally find their own balance? She adjusted the equipment, reducing the power and letting Adam's natural energy pattern flow more freely. The readings suddenly stabilized, and the crystal began to glow more brightly. That's it. George exclaimed, quickly recording the data. The soul signature needs to remain natural. We just need to provide a channel for it to interact with the technology. The door opened, and Lisa Winters walked in, carrying fresh coffee for everyone. Please tell me that excitement means you've figured something out. The council is getting impatient for results. Susan quickly explained their breakthrough, watching Lisa's eyes light up with understanding. This could be exactly what we needed, Lisa said. But now comes the hard part. Actually building something that can use this connection. Over the next few weeks, the team worked around the clock. Susan designed a prototype interface that could channel a person's soul energy into usable power, while George refined the connection process to make it stable and safe. Lisa coordinated everything, translating more of the crystal's data and keeping the council updated on their progress. The first major test came on a quiet Tuesday morning. They had constructed a small defensive shield generator, hoping to power it using the Soul Tech interface. Adam Foster once again volunteered to be their test subject. "Are you sure about this?" Lisa asked him as they helped him into the interface chair. "We don't fully understand the long-term effects yet." Adam smiled confidently. "Someone has to be first. Besides, I've got family on one of the outer colonies. Anything that helps protect them from the Zarkari is worth the risk." The test began slowly. Adam closed his eyes, focusing on maintaining calm as the interface activated. The crystal pulsed in sync with his heartbeat, and the shield generator hummed to life. Energy output at 20%. Susan reported, watching the readings carefully. "Adam, how do you feel?" "It's amazing," he whispered. "I can feel the shield. It's like it's part of me, an extension of my body." The shield shimmed into existence, a dome of pure energy covering the test chamber. George's instruments showed it was twice as strong as their standard shields, using only a fraction of the power. "Push it higher," Lisa instructed. "Let's see what this can really do." Adam concentrated harder. The shield's strength doubled, then tripled, but suddenly his vitals spiked. "Something's wrong," he gasped. "It's too much. I can't." Susan quickly shut down the interface, and the shield vanished. Adam slumped in the chair, exhausted but conscious. "I'm okay," he said before anyone could ask. "Just got overwhelmed for a moment." But did you see what happened? It worked. Later that evening, the team sat in Lisa's office, reviewing the test data. The power output was incredible, Susan said, but we need to find a way to protect the user from mental strain. The ancient text mentioned something about this, Lisa replied, pulling up her translations. They used a kind of mental training to help warriors handle the soul tech connection. We might need to develop something similar. George nodded, making notes. We should also look into ways to distribute the load. Maybe connect multiple people to the same system. Share the burden. Their discussion was interrupted by an urgent message from Administrator Walsh. The Zarkari had just attacked another colony. The death toll was in the thousands. "We need to work faster," Lisa said quietly. "The Council wants a working prototype ready for field testing within 2 months." 2 months. Susan exclaimed. "Lisa, we barely understand how this technology works. We need more time to make it safe." "Safe isn't an option anymore," George pointed out. "Every day we delay, more people die. We have to take the risk." The next few weeks passed in a blur of activity. Susan refined the interface design while George developed a training program to help users handle the soul tech connection. They brought in more volunteers, testing different configurations and gathering data on how different people interacted with the technology. They discovered that some people had naturally stronger soul signatures than others, making them better suited for the interface. They also found that emotional states greatly affected the power output. Strong feelings of protection and determination could double or triple the system's effectiveness. 1 month into their accelerated schedule, they had their first major breakthrough. A test subject named Karen Mitchell managed to maintain a stable connection for over an hour, powering not just shields, but also weapon systems. It's like the technology responds to intention, Karen explained after the test. When I think about protecting others, the shields get stronger. When I focus on targeting a threat, the weapons align perfectly. Lisa immediately reported the success to the council. Within days, plans were being drawn up to integrate Soul Tech into real military hardware. But as their deadline approached, concerns began to surface. Some test subjects reported strange dreams, visions of ancient battles and forgotten worlds. Others showed subtle personality changes, becoming more focused, but also more distant from their peers. We have to tell the council about these side effects, Susan insisted during a late-night meeting. We will, Lisa assured her. But first we need to understand if they're actually harmful or just part of the adaptation process. The ancient text suggests these changes are normal, even beneficial. George rubbed his tired eyes. What worries me is how the Zarkari will react when they realize what we've developed. There must be a reason they use AI instead of similar technology. Maybe they can't use it, Lisa suggested. The crystal's data implies that this technology was specifically designed for human souls. Something about our consciousness makes us uniquely suited for it. Their discussion was cut short by another alert. A Zarkari fleet had been detected approaching Jupiter. Earth's defenses were mobilizing, but everyone knew conventional weapons might not be enough to stop them. Susan looked at her latest interface design. Sleeker, safer, and ready for installation in actual combat vessels. We're out of time for doubts, she said. Ready or not, we need to get this technology into the field. Then let's make sure we do it right, Lisa replied. Humanity's survival could depend on what we've built here. As they prepared for the final phase of testing, none of them could shake the feeling that they were about to change the course of the war, and perhaps the very nature of human consciousness itself. The only question was whether they were ready for the consequences of wielding such power. Captain Amy Rodriguez stood in the docking bay of the Starship Valiant, staring at the newly installed Soul Tech interface. The neural chair looked deceptively simple, just a sleek metal seat surrounded by glowing blue crystals. But she knew it represented humanity's greatest hope for survival. Final systems check complete, Captain, reported Chief Engineer Martinez over the comm. The interface is ready for integration. Amy took a deep breath. As the first combat pilot selected for Soul Tech deployment, she carried the weight of humanity's future on her shoulders. The Zarkari fleet approaching Neptune would be her first real test. Beginning connection sequence, Dr. Lisa Winters' voice came through clearly. She was monitoring from the Luna facility. Remember your training, Amy. Let the connection form naturally. Amy sat in the neural chair, feeling it adjust to her body. The crystals began to pulse in rhythm with her heartbeat. She closed her eyes, letting her consciousness expand as she had practiced dozens of times before. The sensation started slowly, a tingling awareness of the ship around her. Then suddenly, like a dam breaking, her mind merged with the Valiant's systems. She could feel every part of the massive vessel, as if it were her own body. The engines thrummed like a second heartbeat, weapon systems responded to her thoughts, and the shield generators pulsed with her soul's energy. Connection stable, George Howard reported from his monitoring station. All systems showing green. Soul Tech integration at 95%. That's our highest yet. Amy opened her eyes, but she didn't need them anymore. The ship's sensors gave her a perfect 360-degree view of space around her. She could feel the approaching Zarkari fleet, 15 ships moving in perfect computer-controlled formation. This is Captain Rodriguez, she transmitted to Earth Command. The Valiant is ready for combat trial. Understood, Captain. Administrator Walsh replied. You are cleared to engage the enemy. Show us what Soul Tech can do. The Zarkari detected her approach. Their ships broke formation, spreading out to surround her. Under normal circumstances, a single human vessel against 15 alien warships would be suicide. But Amy wasn't flying a normal ship anymore. The first enemy vessel fired, sending a stream of plasma towards the Valiant. Amy didn't need to think about raising shields. Her protective instincts flowed directly into the Soul Tech interface. The shield sprang up instantly, far stronger than any conventional defense. Incredible readings. Susan's voice came through. Shield strength is triple our previous maximum. Amy didn't respond. She was too focused on the battle. She could feel the Zarkari eye attempting to predict her movements, but they couldn't account for human intuition, enhanced by Soul Tech. The Valiant moved like a living thing, dodging fire and striking back with perfect precision. 2 enemy ships exploded under her concentrated fire. A third tried to ram her, but she spun the Valiant in a maneuver that should have been impossible for a ship its size. Her consciousness flowed through the weapon systems, targeting weak points that the ship's normal computers hadn't even detected. They're trying to adapt, Lisa observed. Their AI is learning from your movements. Let them try, Amy replied. Her voice calmed despite the intense battle. She could feel the Soul Tech responding to her determination, channeling more power into the ship's systems. The Zarkari launched a coordinated attack, firing from multiple angles, but Amy's enhanced awareness let her track every shot. The Valiant's shields flared as they absorbed the energy, and she redirected it back into her weapons. 4 more enemy ships vanished in balls of fire. The others began to retreat, their eye apparently deciding that the risk was too high. But Amy wasn't finished. She pushed the Soul Tech interface to its limits, charging the Valiant's main cannon with pure soul energy. The resulting blast cut through space like a blade of light, destroying 3 more Zarkari vessels. The remaining ships jumped to faster than light speed, fleeing the battle entirely. Neptune space secured, Amy reported, feeling a deep satisfaction that went beyond normal victory. 8 enemy ships destroyed, 7 retreated. The Valiant sustained minimal damage. The cheers from Earth Command almost deafened her. She had just accomplished what usually required an entire battle fleet. Later, during the debriefing, Amy tried to describe what it felt like. It's not just controlling the ship, she explained to the assembled scientists and military leaders. The Soul Tech makes you become the ship. Every system feels as natural as moving your own arms and legs. Did you experience any negative effects? Dr. Winters asked, studying the medical readouts. Any strain or disorientation? Amy shook her head. The opposite, actually. I've never felt more focused, more alive. It's like the technology enhances everything that makes us human. Administrator Walsh leaned forward. The Zarkari will analyze this battle. They'll try to counter this technology. Are you prepared for that? Let them try, Amy said with quiet confidence. Their AI can't replicate what we can do with Soul Tech. They don't understand human consciousness or the power of the human spirit. The success of the Valiant's trial changed everything. Within days, more ships were being fitted with Soul Tech interfaces. More pilots began training with the system, each showing unique ways of connecting with the technology. But the Zarkari weren't idle. Reports came in of them massing larger fleets, developing new weapons. They recognized the threat that Soul Tech posed to their technological superiority. They're afraid, Lisa noted during a strategy meeting. For the first time, they're facing something their computers can't quantify or predict. Amy spent her off-duty hours helping train new Soul Tech pilots. She found that each person connected with the technology differently, bringing their own strengths to the interface. Don't fight the connection, she told them. Let your humanity guide you. That's what gives us the edge over their eye. The war was far from over, but humanity finally had hope. Soul Tech had proven itself in battle, showing that human consciousness could overcome even the most advanced alien technology. As Amy prepared for her next mission, she felt the familiar hum of the Soul Tech crystals calling to her. The Valiant wasn't just her ship anymore. It was an extension of her very soul. And together, they would help humanity fight back against the Zarkari threat. The stars waited, and with them, more battles to come. But now, for the first time since the war began, humanity was ready to face them. The age of Soul Tech had begun, and the universe would never be the same. Director John Baker paced in front of the large window overlooking the Earth Defense Council chamber. His reflection showed a man troubled by the weight of his responsibilities. As head of the Ethics Committee, he had spent weeks reviewing reports of Soltech deployments, and what he found disturbed him deeply. "We need to discuss the long-term effects," he announced to the assembled council members. "The changes in our pilots cannot be ignored anymore." Administrator Walsh leaned forward in his chair. "The Soltech program has given us our first real advantage in this war. Every engagement has been successful. At what cost?" John pulled up a holographic display showing brain scans of several pilots. "Look at these patterns. Their neural architecture is being permanently altered." Dr. Lisa Winters stood up from her seat. "The alterations aren't harmful, Director Baker. In fact, our studies show enhanced cognitive abilities and faster reaction times, even when pilots aren't connected to their ships." "That's exactly my point," John replied. "We're changing what it means to be human." Some pilots report feeling disconnected from their bodies when not using Soltech. They say their normal lives feel less real. The debate was interrupted by Communications Officer William Carter rushing into the chamber, his face pale. "Sorry to interrupt, but you need to see this immediately." He connected his tablet to the main display, showing intercepted Zarkari communications. The alien text scrolled across the screen as the translation program worked. "We've finally cracked some of their secure channels," William explained. "They've been searching for Soltech for centuries. They've destroyed entire civilizations trying to find it." Silence fell over the chamber as the implications sank in. Lisa was the first to speak. "The crystal I found on Mars. It wasn't left there by chance, was it?" William shook his head. "According to these transmissions, an ancient race called the Predecessors scattered these crystals across the galaxy. They knew the Zarkari were coming, knew they had to preserve the technology somewhere. But why can't the Zarkari use it themselves?" someone asked. "Because they chose a different path," Lisa realized, her eyes widening. "They abandoned biological evolution for artificial intelligence. They literally cannot use Soltech because they've engineered away the very thing that makes it work, the organic soul." John Baker sat heavily in his chair. "So that's why they're so determined to wipe out other species. They're eliminating any potential competition, anyone who might discover and use this technology against them." The council chamber erupted in heated discussion. Some argued for immediately expanding the Soltech program, while others warned about rushing into further development without understanding the consequences. Administrator Walsh called for order. "We need to hear from someone who's experienced this firsthand. Captain Rodriguez, please share your perspective." Amy Rodriguez had been quietly observing from the back of the chamber. She stepped forward, her movements carrying a new grace that many had noticed in Soltech pilots. "The changes are real," she admitted. "When I'm connected to the Valiant, I'm more than human. And yes, it's hard to go back to being normal afterward. But we're at war for our survival. If evolving is the price we have to pay to save humanity, I accept that cost. But are we still saving humanity if we fundamentally change what humans are?" John countered. Before anyone could respond, another alert flashed across the main screen. A massive Zarkari fleet had just appeared at the edge of the solar system, the largest force ever detected. "They know we have the technology," Williams said grimly. "They're coming to make sure we join all those other extinct civilizations." Administrator Walsh stood up. "It seems our time for debate has run out. We need to make a decision now. Do we fully commit to Soltech development, or do we try to face this threat with conventional weapons?" Lisa pulled up more data from the crystal's archives. "There's something else you should see. The Predecessors didn't just leave us the technology. They left instructions for its next stage of development. They discovered a way to link multiple pilots together, creating a network of human consciousness far more powerful than individual connections. The risks would be even greater," John warned. "We have no idea what that level of neural linking could do to human minds. But the potential benefits could be enormous, Amy argued. Individual Soul-Tech pilots can match Zarkari AI. Imagine what a unified human consciousness could achieve. The debate continued as reports came in of the approaching Zarkari fleet. Hours passed as the council weighed the options, studied the data, and argued about humanity's future. Finally, Administrator Walsh called for a vote. We're out of time. The future of our species hangs in the balance. Do we proceed with full Soul-Tech development, including the consciousness networking program? One by one, the council members cast their votes. Even John Baker, despite his reservations, eventually voted yes. The survival of humanity had to take precedence over the risks of evolution. The motion passes, Walsh announced. Dr. Winters, begin immediate implementation of the networking protocols. Captain Rodriguez, select your best pilots for the first group link. As the chamber emptied, John caught up with Lisa in the hallway. I still think we're opening a door we can't close, he said quietly. Lisa nodded in understanding. Maybe that's exactly what the predecessors intended. They knew humanity would only accept this level of change if we had no other choice. And the pilots? John asked. What do we tell them about the risks? We tell them the truth, Amy replied, joining them. We're about to take the next step in human evolution. It's dangerous, it's unprecedented, and it's absolutely necessary. The three of them looked out a window at the Earth below, knowing that the next few weeks would determine not just the outcome of the war, but the very future of human consciousness. In orbit, the Soul-Tech-equipped ships waited for their pilots, their crystalline interfaces pulsing with potential. Humanity stood on the brink of its greatest transformation, forced to evolve or face extinction. The choice had been made. Now they could only hope it was the right one. Commander Mary Sullivan stood in the center of the neural integration chamber, surrounded by 12 other Soul-Tech pilots. Dr. Paul Bennett adjusted the final connections on their interfaces, while the crystalline network nodes pulsed with growing intensity. Remember, Paul said, checking each pilot's vital signs. This will feel different from your individual connections. Don't fight the group consciousness. Let it form naturally. Mary looked at her fellow pilots. They had trained together for weeks, preparing for this moment. Each was an experienced Soul-Tech operator, but linking their minds together was something entirely new. Network initialization in 3 minutes, Lisa Winters announced from the control room. All pilots, prepare for convergence. Captain Amy Rodriguez, seated nearby, gave Mary an encouraging nod. As the most experienced Soul-Tech pilot, Amy would guide them through the first group connection. The countdown reached 0. Mary felt the familiar sensation of Soul-Tech integration, but this time it was accompanied by something else. The gentle touch of other minds joining with hers. It wasn't invasive or overwhelming, more like streams flowing together to form a river. Neural linkage at 20%, Paul reported. Consciousness patterns are stable and harmonizing. Suddenly, Mary could sense her fellow pilot's thoughts and emotions. She felt Amy's quiet confidence, saw glimpses of battles through other pilots' memories. The sensation grew stronger as the network reached full power. Group consciousness achieved, Lisa announced excitedly. All readings are within expected parameters. The linked pilots tested their connection, sharing thoughts and experiences with incredible speed and clarity. Through their combined awareness, they could process information far faster than any individual mind. Incoming transmission from Earth Defense Command, said Administrator Walsh's voice. The Zarkari fleet has crossed Saturn's orbit. They'll reach Earth in 6 hours. The networked pilots responded as one, their thoughts perfectly synchronized. They could feel the power of their combined consciousness, far greater than anything they had experienced individually. Within minutes, they boarded their ships. The Soul-Tech interfaces connected smoothly with their networked minds, linking 12 vessels into a single fighting force. Mary felt the others' presence clearly, no longer separate pilots, but parts of a greater whole. The Earth Defense Fleet moved to intercept the Zarkari Armada. Traditional warships formed a defensive line while the Sol Tech vessels took up attack positions. Through their shared consciousness, the linked pilots could coordinate perfectly without speaking. Zarkari fleet entering weapons range. Announce Earth Command. All ships, prepare for combat. The enemy ships appeared, their AI systems launching immediate attacks. But the networked pilots saw patterns that individual minds would have missed. They moved their ships in complex formations that no computer could predict. Mary felt the combined power of 12 Sol Tech interfaces flowing through the network. Their shields merged into overlapping fields of protection, while their weapons linked to create devastating combination attacks. The Zarkari AI tried to adapt, but it couldn't match the speed and creativity of the human group consciousness. Where a single Sol Tech pilot could outmaneuver enemy ships, 12 linked minds could control the entire flow of battle. "Look at those readings," Paul said in amazement. "The network is amplifying their abilities exponentially. This goes beyond anything we theorized." The linked pilots pushed deeper into the enemy fleet. They could sense the Zarkari AI's growing confusion as it failed to counter their unpredictable tactics. Ships that had terrorized human colonies for years now fell before the combined might of networked Sol Tech. Hours passed as the battle raged across space. The human fleet suffered losses, but the Sol Tech ships remained untouched, protected by their merged shields and perfect coordination. Finally, the Zarkari fleet began to retreat. Their AI had calculated that victory was impossible against this new human weapon. As the enemy ships fled into faster-than-light speed, cheers erupted across Earth's communication channels. "This changes everything," Administrator Walsh declared. "The Council will reveal Sol Tech to the public immediately. We need more volunteers for the program." The networked pilots carefully disconnected from their group consciousness, each returning to their individual awareness. The experience had changed them, showing them possibilities they had never imagined. In the days that followed, humanity learned about Sol Tech and its potential. Thousands volunteered for testing, eager to help defend Earth. The Zarkari threat had united humanity in ways no one expected. Dr. Bennett and his team worked to improve the networking technology, while Lisa continued decoding more of the crystal's secrets. They discovered ways to create larger neural networks, linking even more pilots together. 1 month after the battle, Mary stood before a new group of Sol Tech trainees. "What we're doing here isn't just about fighting a war," she told them. "We're discovering what humanity can truly become when we work together, not just with our bodies and minds, but with our very souls." The training facility had expanded, now filling several levels of the Luna base. In the docking bays, dozens of ships waited to receive their Sol Tech interfaces. Earth's first major offensive against Zarkari space would begin soon. Amy Rodriguez, watching the preparations from an observation deck, felt a deep sense of satisfaction. "We're not just defending anymore," she said to Lisa. "We're taking the fight to them." Lisa nodded, holding up a data tablet showing new translations from the crystal. The predecessors knew this would happen. They didn't just give us a weapon. They gave us a path to advancement. The Zarkari chose to abandon their biological nature for artificial perfection. "We're proving there's another way." "Evolution through unity," Paul added, joining them. "The network doesn't just link our minds. It helps us grow, learn, become more than we were." As Earth's forces prepared for their first major offensive, the future seemed full of possibilities. Sol Tech had given humanity more than a way to fight back. It had shown them a new path forward, a way to evolve while keeping their essential humanity intact. The war was far from over, but its outcome no longer seemed in doubt. United by technology that enhanced rather than replaced human consciousness, Earth's defenders looked to the stars with confidence rather than fear. The age of networked souls had begun, and the universe would never be the same.